Hi. There
Hi,
you go. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Where are you located?
I'm in Rochester, New York.
Mm. Are you from Rochester?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Are
That's
you
convenient.
still Yeah, it is convenient. Are you still in the city?
I am, yes. I live in Brooklyn, so I've been here. I was actually like on vacation the first week that this all kind of started in New York.
Mhm.
And then I came back and we were on like full lockdown, work from home. So it's kind of weird to come back to that, but I'm still here.
How's working from home?
It's okay. It's at first it was a little hard. It was just trying to get used to like the communication and figuring out how we're going to do everything, especially since a majority of our magazine production is done in person and we're looking at physical layouts and we have group conversations and everything like that. So just trying to figure out what that new process was going to be was a little hard, but we figured it out and it's been going smoothly. We've produced 3 magazines so far remotely, so and they all came out pretty well. um, yeah, I mean it's kind of like normal. It's just just normal same tasks other than that everything is COVID related. A lot of COVID coverage, a lot of pulling photos for things like that. But steady workflow just like normal and similar processes, just not in person.
Right. What's that process like? Because you can't look at like actual layouts and actual
Yeah,
spreads. So
yeah,
give me a little insight on what you guys are doing
sure,
instead.
yeah. So we use mainly email and Slack to communicate. So like every Monday and every Thursday, the photo team has a video call. We kind of go over on Monday. We go over what the magazine's going to look like, who's working on what, what's kind of needed there, and then we do our research. We have our conversations with our managers and whatnot through Slack, and then from there, we're kind of picking photo options, giving them to the art department, and then the art department is building out PDF layouts and sending them out through email. And then we'll have conversations through email about the photo choices and things like that, similar to how we would do it at a layout meeting. So in some ways, it's efficient because excuse me, just dropped my other laptop. Put
That's
that
not good.
away. My work one. Um, in some ways, it's pretty efficient because we're not having these like long-winded conversations, but in other ways it's hard because we don't get to have that interaction and that discussion between each other. And but yeah, so we send out emails and then the top editor will like kind of look at everything, make decisions, or ask for more options and things like that. um, and then from there we kind of just handle it just like we would. We work with a program called InCopy, which is an Adobe program to do that's how like the writers put in their text, how we put in credits for photos, and how we can look at all the layouts on there as well, so we can kind of see the progression of how the art department's designing things and just having conversations with the art department as well throughout, making sure we're all on the same page. Yeah, that's kind of usually in the office. What we do is it's very similar. We pull a lot of research, we talk to our manager, we pick a couple options, we provide them to the art department, but then we're just going to a table. We go twice a day to a table and we look at all of the layouts together. And the top editor will kind of look at everything and ask questions about what the photo is of, when it's from, or if there's any other kind of options, or he'll ask us to kind of like look into a different subject, or we'll have discussions whether like I think that's a good photo and I'll tell him why, or things like that. So that's the only thing that's kind of missing. And we obviously have to have a lot of video calls and emails, and at first it was a little overwhelming, but we're getting used to it and doing what we can.
Yeah, definitely. Is it like hard to not have that physical copy in your hands and see it all laid out? Is that
For
like a difficult?
Yeah, I would say for sure. And I don't work lately. I haven't worked a lot on print. I do a lot of the web stuff right now, and So I've been fortunate not to have to like deal with massive, well, feature story layouts. I usually in the magazine I'll usually handle like a one picture layout and things like that. So it hasn't been too tough for me, but I know that like some of my other colleagues, they really miss having that physical form of the layout and just being able to see how everything's kind of um, structured. I know also there's this like program they're starting to use where they can just do like I forget what it's called, but they can make like quick layouts just to kind of see how things can sit on a page and then share that with the art director to kind of have that conversation about how things might be sequenced or things like that. Um, so yeah, but it's definitely hard not to like have, because we would print them out and we'd see them all on the table in like a full sequence, and it's hard not to see that. But we make do. And it's going okay, and luckily, we all employees of Time get a subscription to Time, so we get it delivered to our house. So we're able to see like the actual print copy when it's done, which is really nice. And so if there's any issues with color or if we find something like that, we're able to look through and double check those things just like we would in the office. So that's good at least.
Yeah, at least you're getting a physical copy of something so you
Hmm.
can actually, like, hold the
Yes.
finished product in your hands. So
Yes, definitely.
are you guys still giving out assignments to photographers?
Yes, we are. Obviously, there's a lot more conversation that goes into it right now, making sure photographers are safe and they have correct PPE. And if they're going into any certain situation, like a hospital or anything like that, where they could be near COVID patients or anything like that, there's a whole conversation that goes on, and making sure that they have health insurance, that they are healthy themselves, they don't have a fever, they don't have symptoms, they're wearing masks, they're wearing gloves, they're disinfecting their equipment, um, and helping them with those things if they don't have it, and they also get compensated properly. We do pay more for situations like this, similar to if we were sending a photographer during a war or if we were sending a photographer during a natural disaster. We want to make sure they're properly compensated for that. But we are signing, I think, less. A lot of times we'll sign like a quick portrait. That's like what I do a lot. I have this section called Time With, which is usually just like a nice candid interview with somebody, and we usually assign a portrait for that. Which we've kind of held off a bit because we're not going to send photographer to do a 30-minute portrait where we have to go through all of these steps when we can find pickup or we can do something with video chat or something like that. So it's just trying to think a little bit more creatively. And we've really been starting to think about, I know a lot of photographers are exploring photographing through FaceTime, photographing through their computers, and being creative with that. So that's always an option as well, but it's a tricky one. Um, yeah, but we have been assigning. We did a whole issue about frontline workers, and we did I think 6 covers for that, 6 different covers. We had a range of people. We had a Danny Kim, who's a photographer and now paramedic. He did some self portraiture and some documenting for us while he was working. That was really amazing. And then we photographed, um, cafeteria workers. I think someone who worked at a mortuary, and just like different frontline workers on the scene. And we hired different photographers all over the world for that. But again, it was that's a lot of conversation and making sure that they're safe and all those things. It's just a whole new level to that when assigning now.
Definitely. Then there's, like, so many different aspects of this event that need to be covered, and how do you
Hmm.
choose what's important to be photographing versus something that, maybe isn't important right in this moment and that can
For
wait?
sure. I think the benefit is that there are a ton of wire photographers out there right now creating work for Getty and AP and all these people and Reuters, and so it's really beneficial that we have all of those things. So when it comes to things like testing sites or the protests or you know, just like general ideas and things like that, surrounded about coronavirus and things like that. We have access to all of those things, so that's kind of helps us decipher, you know, what to photograph. I think right now though is um, we're really trying to cover as much as we can, and so it's I guess it's really dependent on like what they're writing about, you know, because it's like while we have a lot of influence at the magazine, we're not the first people to come up with the ideas most of the time. You know, it's usually something that a writer has, and then we're trying to figure out what visuals we can give to that. So, you know, it's usually like the big stories in the magazine, what's going to come up is what we're really focusing on. And then everything else can kind of be wires or photographers who've already created work that we can license from, especially with things like personal work, like being quarantined and things like that. If photographers are making really cool images, we are licensing stuff from them like that. It's already done. Um, so you know, it's like I feel like there's not a conversation of do we have the resources and like what should we and shouldn't we do. It's more just like what can we do, which is kind of great because we have the resources for that. And like we are working with a photographer to create some really great like stock imagery surrounding coronavirus and things like that that we can use for pieces that are a little harder to illustrate, especially things like the stimulus check that is like the most boring thing to find a photo for. So just trying to be creative with that and figuring things out like that. So I didn't really answer your question totally, but it's a
No,
tough
I
one to
think
answer, you know, because
yeah,
we're really covering as much as we can. So trying to cover all the bases.
no, that definitely I think covers what I was trying to get at. Do you think that this whole coronavirus has changed the style of photography that you're seeing from your photographers or and from the wire photographers?
Hmm. I don't think necessarily changing, but I think one thing that I've noticed is really interesting is that because you know of social distancing and because um, you know we can't be as close in certain situations, everything feels really pulled back and really detached. Especially on the wires, everything's kind of like seen from afar, and sometimes it's hard to like find an image that way because you know you don't feel like it's giving enough information or you feel really detached from the situation. And you know, so that's one thing I've noticed. And I've also noticed a lot of photographers making really nice personal work that's just kind of outside their original style. But I don't think otherwise. I think photographers are still photographing in their ways, and you know they're doing what they can with their styles and everything like that. And you know they're still making really amazing, crazy images and really powerful stuff. But yeah, I think it has promoted like more personal work in people, which is exciting, but also hard because that means that they aren't getting work or they don't have work, and so you know they're not getting paid. So another thing why we're like looking out for a lot of photographers who are making this work on their own and trying to license it because we want to make sure we can support them too, but also use their really beautiful work. Um, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's just one thing that's been on my mind lately is you know kind of how Corona has kind of forced journalists and photojournalists into different methods of reporting and different kinds of
Hmm.
journalism. So, like using Zoom to do interviews like this
Yep.
one, or, you know, there's a project that the New York Times did, and they did an interview over Zoom, and they had the subjects actually recording their day to day life. So,
Hmm.
that's interesting to me is to see how journalism kind of is evolving in this time and kind of taking on a new kind of platform. Do you see that a lot? And
Totally, yeah. And example of that when I was just talking about Danny Kim, that he did a video piece as well, and a lot of it was self-recorded, and a lot of self-recording him speaking and things like that. So, and this is also like I was talking to the video team earlier. I feel like they're facing this a lot more than we are, but you know they're just they're having a hard time dealing with these like FaceTime videos or phone videos, and it's just like not this product that they're used to working with. And so really being innovative and trying to work with that to make it interesting. I'll send you the video after. It's like it's so powerful, even though it's just like on his phone and him walking around and things like that. But I think the cool thing about that is it feels personal. It feels like you're with that person. That's their life. That's what they're seeing. That's what they're going through every day. It's not this beautiful stylized visual of it. It's just very gritty and real, which I think can be more powerful and hit home with a lot more people. But I totally agree with your point. It's people are being really innovative and trying to find new ways to do what they were doing before, and I think a lot of people are being successful with it. For
Definitely.
sure.
Do you think that that now with that kind of new medium, it's bringing a kind of new connectedness that we all can share? Because I know we talked about earlier how, all of the photographs like are kind of detached, but in like
Mhm.
kind of now seeing these like personal like home videos on the phone, does that like bring some sort of connectedness back? And do you think that'll like kind of stay if once we get through this coronavirus?
Yeah, I think for sure. And also a little different than that, but I think just human connectiveness is happening a lot more too, and just like the relationship between photographer and editor or journalist and subject and whatever um, is a lot more strong and a lot more not intimate but close. Because we're all checking in with each other and making sure everyone is doing well. I've had photographers and I've texted photographers who aren't even working together right now, but we're just checking in on each other because we know how tough this time is. And similar with writers and people that they're interviewing and things like that. I think there's just this like overall connectiveness that's happening that I hope will carry on after. Because I don't know, it allows people to be more open. I think a lot of people are being more open and honest uh, with each other. It's a little my deep thought, but um, but yeah, I think that is what you asked.
Yeah, definitely.
I just rant a lot, so I hope whatever you use this for, you edit it so I don't sound like
I
a
will,
crazy
yeah.
person.
Um, and you said you're still assigning photographers. Do you have any freelancers that like will go anywhere and do anything that you've kind of had to like reel in and kind of keep them being responsible, or are they all like,
I think I haven't had any personal experience with that because I'm not assigning too much right now on our team, but I think everyone's being pretty responsible. I don't and honestly, like if a photographer was like that, I'd be like, you need to calm down, you need to be safe, like you need to be making sure you're not spreading this virus or hurting yourself or your family or whatever. But I honestly don't think that's an issue. I think people are very understanding and and I also don't think people want to go this place and that place because it's really scary. It's a scary time, and luckily, freelancers are all over the U.S. Freelancers are all over the world. And so we have everyone in every little nook and cranny of the world, and we're able to access them. And I think the amazing thing about photographers is they're so smart and so safe and so understanding of the world, and that while they need to document, they still need to take care of themselves and other people. And so I think people are just being really smart right now, and that's exciting to hear, and just to know that people are being safe and understanding and all those things. I think I haven't run into anything like that.
that's good then?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you are staying safe, and working from
Yes.
home is going pretty well, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's tough at times because when you're in the office and I think you could probably feel similarly about school. It's like when you take little breaks, throughout the day, it's because you like go walk somewhere, or you're getting a snack, or you're talking to a coworker, or you're discussing something, and the day feels normal. But when you're at home and you're like sitting at this table for 8 hours and you don't get up all day, or like you decide to take a break and you're like, "Oh, I'm slacking off," but you're not. It's the same as, like, going to the bathroom or, like, getting up to go get a snack or going for lunch for 20 minutes, you know? And so it's hard to, there never feels like there's a beginning of the day and the end of the day. It's just kinda like one long day forever. Um, so it's I think it's more, the hardest part, I think, of all this is just, like, your own mental health and just figuring out, um, how to work and do this on your own. It's, luckily everyone's been really, really great with figuring out the structure of it all, but you have to remember your own mental health and your own sanity in all of this.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
for sure.
Are you making any work, like, photographically?
Not really, but I have thought about it a lot. I've been knitting, so making some kind of thing with my hands. Um, yeah, it's a conversation me and my coworker have a lot where we're like, this is the time we should be creative, this time we should be thinking about things and all of that. So I have thought a lot about like more going into the archives of all of the old stuff that I have. I also have all these really beautiful old photographs of my grandmother that I've been wanting to retouch for a while. So might get into that, but it's all words, so I haven't done any of it yet.
They're
um,
options.
they're options, yeah. It's tough to be motivated, but hopefully I motivate myself.
Definitely. I totally agree with that one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me.
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks.
Alright.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.